Welcome to this exclusive look at the NRL season 2006, brought to you by the Daily Telegraph, Fox Sports and the NRL.
Now, coming up, we'll take a close look at each club and how they are shaping up for the long road ahead, and we'll examine this year's representative season.
We hear from some true legends of league and get their word on the amazing season that was 2005, plus comments from today's NRL stars on what to expect this season.
Now, 2006 is sure to ignite some great NRL action, so stick around with us for the exclusive season preview, thanks to our partners, the Daily Telegraph, Fox Sports and the NRL.
The NRL 2006 season. Every game, every highlight. The Daily Telegraph. Every day.
The best news for the West Tigers fans, for mine, is that the Tigers have probably recruited better than any club in the NRL. Keith Galloway, Ryan O'Hara, Sam Harris, all of whom have got their best football ahead of them. And then on top of that, you've got Jamal Alisi, an international with the Kiwis.
I tend to agree with you, Kenny. I think that the Tigers, they surprised a lot of people in last year's competition. They played some of the best and exciting football we have seen in a long time. I think they captured everyone's imagination. Their depth will be improved this season. Obviously, their forward pack, while they had skill last year, still lacked a little bit of size in the middle of the park, but I think they got it all covered.
Let me ask how that affects the Tigers, because last year Tim Sheens made a point. He said, right, we've got no big players, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a very skillful side. He had a side that were all very good with the football in their hands, from full-back all the way through to front row. This year, they're going to have a few more bigger players that can get that little bit more grunt up the middle. Does that change, or let me ask you this, does that change the way the Tigers play, or do those players coming into the club have to adapt with the way the Tigers play?
Oh, look, there's no doubt that with those players coming into the squad, there'll be competitions and competing for their spots. There'll be no complacency. I think Tim Sheens will stay with the tactics that were so successful for him last year. And the people that are coming into the squad can all use the football. O'Hara, while he was used as a go-forward man with Canberra Raiders, in his earlier days he was good at offloading the football both in the line and before the line. Galloway can do the same thing, and we all know that Sam Harris played a number of times for the Manly side last year as a 5'8", so he can use the football. So they've recruited players that can fit into their team structure. I think the Tigers are probably one of the best bets again this season, given that they have the same injury toll as what they did last year, because they had hardly any injuries, especially to their key players.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. You look at the markets and basically, yeah, the Tigers do not weigh in the top four with the St George Illawarras, the Paramattas, those sorts of clubs.
It's funny and it's strange because they play some good football. They look a stronger team on paper, and they've got a coach who has been there before and won back-to-back competitions. So they've got all the ingredients to have a successful 2006, and there's no reason why they won't be there.
Well, after the happiest off-season in the club's short history, what now for the Tigers? Here's Scott Prince.
I think we'll handle the pressure of being the defending premiers pretty well. I think, with Royce and Tim at the helm, it's obviously two wise men, and they know a lot about defending the premiership, and we've been training well, so only time will tell. We've recruited some bigger guys for this year, so I think it won't change our style as much. I think it may provide a lot of offloads, which will create a lot more for the little guys, such as Benji, Hodjo and myself. So it would be quite hard to win back-to-back premierships. I think history shows that our club hasn't done it for quite a while now, so we have a pretty fine roster of players, but it's going to be very tough. hopefully we'll be able to handle it, and we'll have to wait and see come September.
Well, it's official. 2006 will be Brian Smith's last season as Parramatta's head coach, but given the way the players have reacted to his being let go, nothing but an endorsement for Smith, and certainly no lack of motivation for the Eels. They're not happy about it.
No, they're certainly not happy about it. They regard Brian Smith as their coach, their mentor, and someone that should be at the club for the next few seasons, but the club have decided to take a different path. That could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I like the look of the Eels this season. I think they'll go one step better and make the grand final. I think they've got some tremendous players. And one thing about football players in this day and age is no matter who's coaching them, they always go out there and have pride in their performance. And I think Parramatta let themselves down. They saved their worst for last against the Cowboys. They were expected to make that grand final. They didn't get there, so there's plenty of extra motivation in the off-season.
The thing is, though, with the Eels, not only did they not get there, they got beat 29-0. Now, that is a fairly heavy flogging. How do they have? What sort of scars does that leave for a football team expecting to win a game?
Well, obviously they need to get it out of their head straight away that was just their worst performance and try and get on with it. They can't think about 2005, it's 2006, and all they can control is their time on the football field. So from the very first game, they've just got to go out there. This is a different team, new environment. We're going to play our best football. The thing about some of these high-profile teams who have got plenty of star players is that they need to save their best for last, but the catch to that is they've also got to win plenty of games to get to the semi-finals and put themselves in a good position, because we have seen the teams with the role at the end of the year is usually the team that goes on and wins the competition, not the team that's had the role either at the start or the middle period of the year.
And the hard thing for Parramatta really is that whatever scars are left or remain over that 29-0 beating by North Queensland won't really be exposed until the back end of the season, will they? Won't be exposed until they get to that same situation again, and we'll have to wait until then to see how Parramatta are going to react.
But it's something that Parramatta have had to put up with over the last few seasons. The fact is that they've got to grand finals or they've got to semi-finals and failed to come up. So I don't think there's anything different there for them, even though they lost last year's semi-finals. I think they've just got to get that out of their mind. Different season, different players, new motivation, and their motivation is to win the competition. And I'm sure that they'll strive hard to try and send their popular coach out a winner.
Well, here's Nathan Kalis to let us know what the Eels think about going one or maybe two better in 2006.
We did finish on a very disappointing note, but I feel we had a great season and the rest of the boys feel the same way, and obviously that's our goal this year, to go one better and make the grand final. Obviously it's going to be sad to see Brian leave the club. He's done so much great work at the club, and all the players are really pumped for a big season. You know, we put in a good base last year and we want to go one better this year and make the grand final. The club hasn't signed anyone for this season. We recruited a lot of players last year and everyone's got to know each other's style of play, and we feel that it's really going to help us for this season. We had such a good year last year, but this year we really want to go on with the job.
What else can you say about the St George Illawarra Dragons that hasn't already been said? Everybody knows it, Laurie. As many as 13 players coming off contract this season. Can this be the season? We've been waiting for a number of years now. Is this the season the Dragons take it home?
Oh, I think it can be. I think they'll be there when the whips are cracking. I think they'll come down to the last four as they did last season. Look, I think that the Dragons are capable of winning competitions over the next 4 or 5 years, but I think with this group of players it finishes at the end of the year, because a few of them will be moving on. It's been well documented that there's plenty of players coming off contract, and they probably won't be able to keep them all. Of course, Luke Bailey, their premier front rower, is already off to the Gold Coast in 2007. So it is big times for the Dragons, but they're quite excited about the challenge ahead.
There's no way, though, you can keep all those players. That is basically the reality of this salary cap, isn't it? You cannot keep all these players. For years now, St George have been building towards something. We all thought 2005 was the season. They used up that chance. They got burned the week before the grand final. It's now or never.
It is, but that's why we keep talking about depth, because with the salary cap, you can't have a lot of depth which you had in the past, where you could keep blokes that have played 100, 101st grade games and be paying them less amounts of money and be having them as your 20th, 24th player, you know.
If you, sorry to interrupt, but if you do go through this St George club, they've probably got the best depth of any club in the NRL. On top of that, man for man, they are perhaps, probably the strongest club in the NRL. Yeah, it's all there for them.
I've got no doubt, man for man, they are the best team in the competition, because I think they are the most athletic outside backs. They have the most athletic outside backs. I think they've got the most athletic forwards in the game, and I think they play well, but when they've been put under pressure over the last couple of years, they've just come up empty. But I think that's a reflection on the guys developing as players and developing as leaders in the football club. I think they're really starting to gel. You look through the age of the Dragons side, it's not a particularly old side. It's a young side that's been growing and growing and growing. I think it's the year that they can deliver, but we've got to wait and see.
Well, let's hear what Trent Barrett has to say about that.
Will be, you know, a really good chance for us to win a premiership with the players that we've got. We're going to lose Bales. We know that for sure, and we've got a lot of young blokes off contract, a few older blokes as well. So, you know, it might be our last chance with this current group of players who we've been playing with for a long time to finally get a chance to win one without getting too far ahead of ourselves. We just want to win the first game. Yeah, there's a fair bit of pain left from the preliminary final against the Tigers. We really didn't play the way we wanted to play that night. We were beaten by 8 points in a game that would have got us into a grand final, and you know, we probably saved our worst to last. You know, it's pretty hard to take, considering the consequences at the end of that game. You know, we had a really big chance and we blew it. Got a chance to avenge that this year, starting with playing the Tigers at Telstra Stadium in the first round. Yeah, I think Nathan Brown and the team came of age, I think, last season. I think the start we had, we lost 4 in a row. The coach was under pressure, the players were under pressure, and you know, it wasn't a really nice place to be on a Monday morning. But I think after round 5 we lost 3 games, and you know, we really found some consistency in our game, something that we've been criticised for in the past. And you know, we started to play some really good footy, and you know, we've got the same team again this year. You know, we're looking to do the same.
Take your league seriously? Get Fox Sports, the only place to see your NRL team play every week. You gotta love your league on Fox Sports. For every game, every week, call your service provider now.
If there was ever anything to illustrate the Roosters' problems last year, it was that they scored 86 tries last season compared to 136 tries the season before when they made the grand final. That total was the lowest since 1995, which was the year before Brad Fittler arrived. The Roosters' problems started and ended with no recognised playmaker at pivot.
I totally agree. I think the pressure was placed to Brett Finch, and as we've seen, if you haven't got some options in your halves, it's easy for the opposition to shut you down. I think that's what happened with the Roosters last year. And Nasta coming over to the club will help Brett Finch enormously. He won't have all the pressure on his shoulders, and Nasta has proven at the highest level. He's won a competition, he's played State of Origin and for Australia. So I think the outside men of the Roosters will see a lot more ball. They looked a tired side to me last year, the Sydney Roosters, and I think that the effect of playing in 3 consecutive grand finals, plus the fact that a lot of their players were playing representative football, finally caught up to them. And I know one player in particular, Craig Wing, injured early in the year. He carried that injury for a long period of time, and he is very a key component in this Roosters outfit, because not only have they got good creative halves, when Roosters are playing well, Wing gets out of dummy half and puts the opposition forwards under pressure. He can get out and attack the A and B defender. And, I just think that losing him at stages last year affected their game. But the Roosters, there's a lot to like. But again, they've lost a lot of players in the off-season. Whether they have an injury-free year or not will determine how far they go.
The other thing is, too, is you can have a Nasta playing on your left side. You can put Ashley Harrison now. He comes in to replaces Luke Ricketson. Big loss to the club. But Harrison is more of that classical back rower type that plays with the ball a little bit. Ricketson was more of a runner. He liked to get there and do that sort of football. Harrison can play on the right side a little bit and, again, alleviate some of the pressure on Brett Finch.
Yeah, they can. Look, I'm not a big fan of splitting my halves left and right, because I think that's part of the game where you really want your halves to have good vision, and to teach our players to have that coming through the system. I think you're better off to let your half and 5'8" just roam and run the game. I think sometimes we stereotype them left side player or right side player. I'd like to see a Nasta just float. I know he played a lot down the left-hand side with the Bulldogs, but I'd just like to see him float, because I think his vision's improving, and I think the more times that he comes up on different sides of the field, it just helps the Roosters' attack.
Just quickly, how will the loss of Crocker, Ricketson and Jason Kalis up front, how will that affect them?
Oh, look, I think Jason Kalis is a big blow, because Kalis was one of the best front rowers in the competition. His combination with Morley really provided the Roosters good go forward. Crocker had his moments with the Roosters. Origin time, he was pretty special for the Queenslanders, but Roosters, he just wasn't consistent and spent a great deal of time on the sidelines. Ricketson, he's been a fine player for the Sydney Roosters. Obviously, they'll miss him. I think the Roosters have recruited okay, but the big question mark over them, of course, is going to be how Braithen Astor fits in with Brett Finch.
Well, let's hear from the new skipper, Craig Fitzgibbon.
Braith will be a big difference for us this year. We had I suppose, down on points last year in terms of attack, and we needed Braith there. Probably last year would have been great, but we used a number of different options there at 5'8", and they all showed that they can play it. But we probably struggled for a set combination for the entire year, and I think that that probably hindered us, I guess you could say. But now that we've got him, they've got Ashley Harrison as well. It adds a new dimension to our attack, as I said, and they can probably, I suppose, ball play at second receiver a fair bit and help Finchy and ease his load as well. He's going to be a huge loss, Jason Kalis. He's a player we really turned to last year, and he had probably his best year, and he's gone overseas, unfortunately for us. But at the end of the year, we had David Shillington step up and play a couple of games at the end of the year in the front row, and he's a first grader now, and we're looking at him to really step up again. And there's a number of other young kids who got the opportunity throughout the year, and hopefully if they play extended periods of football in first grade, they could obviously fill that void. Captaincy is a huge honour for me. There's some pretty big boots to fill there with Brad Fittler. He had the job for a number of years, and then Luke Ricketson last year, and there are two club legends and I suppose legends of our game. So to step up into that role, it's a huge honour and something we're looking forward to. But I've got a lot of help here. We've got a lot of senior players and a lot of players who will help us on the park, lead us around. So it's just a matter of being out there and leading by example, and trying to keep a cool head amongst all the all these other young kids that are coming through, and as a Finch, will probably steer us around the park more than anything, though.
Well, the changing of the guard has begun at Cronulla, and the Sharks will go into this season without their two most popular faces we've seen down the Shire of late, David Peachey and Jason Stevens. They've bought considerably well, though, Laurie. They've bought Ben Ross, Lance Thompson, Ben Pomeroy, Darren Albert, brought him all the way back from England.
I agree with you. I think that Ben Ross, will be a good player down there. Obviously, they were looking for some bulkier players to fill the role of Nutley and also Jason Stevens. David Peachey will be one bloke that they will miss, because Peachey took a lot of pressure off Brett Camorley. Camorley, as we talk about a lot of the playmakers in the game, is obviously the key player for the Sharks.
Yeah, Peachey was the spark off him. He'd get the ball at the back, he'd spark up their attack. He took a little bit of that pressure off Camorley. They've also lost Keith Galloway too, another big go-forward player. Ben Ross is in there, but Jason Stevens, Galloway, both gone. Are they going to have some problems with depth, or do you think there's enough there, what they've bought?
No, I think they've got enough depth, because I think that some of their young guys that played in the Jersey Flegg last year and some of the Premier League guys are ready to step up and fill the breach. The key, though, for the Sharks is obviously their go forward, to allow Camorley to go to the line and play that flat style of football that he likes to play. Last year he tried to mix it up a little bit. I don't know whether it was that successful for him.
It was an unfortunate year for Cronulla. He was very, very, very good at the start of the year. Got the Sharks up into second position, but then obviously, as we all know, State of Origin came. He had a poor first... Well, that wasn't particularly poor first game, but I suppose the fallout after that game was particularly tough on him. It knocked his confidence around a bit, and from there, the Sharks, they just sort of tumbled out the back door, didn't they?
I think you're right. I think confidence is a big ingredient in this game, and Cronulla lost it towards the end of last season. The other key component of the Sharks' outfit, they need a good number 6 or someone else that can take pressure off Brett Cronulla. They had it a little bit with Adam Dykes and David Peachey. Dykes is staying at the club, but he needs to get his football back up to a level where he can command a first-grade position. If they start with Vangana in the 6, he's not a natural creator with the football, and therefore it nullifies the outside men.
He was very effective, though, wasn't he, towards the end of last year, Vangana, when he was in the number 6 jersey?
I thought he was terrific, but he's more of a support player. He's not. Hasn't got a true passing game of a classic number 6, and therefore, while his game was good, I thought Cronulla suffered because Cronulla was looking to do everything, and when you got one player that creates almost every opportunity in the game for your side, it's easy to defend.
And it's too much to ask of one man. Let's go to Brett Cronulla now and see if he agrees.
Pressure this year's probably been, or hopefully will be taken off a bit. You know, obviously our forwards are going to try and play a bit of a different role this year. We're not going to be sort of a bash and barge team that we have been in the past. They'll certainly, hopefully, play a bit more footy amongst themselves and throw a few more options at the defence. You know, losing David Peachey probably puts a bit more pressure back on me being able to shift it with the backs. But you know, Dave Simmons, he's a good support player, so hopefully we'll play a bit more second phase. And I get to sit back a bit more and just pick my time when I want to take the ball. You know, hopefully it's not as dominating as it has been in the past and a bit more enjoyable for me. Obviously the loss of Steve Rogers is something that shocked us at the start. You really don't want a reason to dedicate trying to get a victory for the club, but you know, he was such a tremendous clubman and probably the best player our club's ever had. So we're going to try and honour him a bit this year and you know, hopefully put his name somewhere on the jumper for us to remember him throughout the year, so through the tough times we can know that the premiership would be a tremendous reason to win it for him. And as I said, you know, just him being such a tremendous clubman, he was passionate about us trying to get our first premiership, so to achieve it this year would be huge. Lance has been a good buy for us in the off-season. You know, obviously losing 2 important front rowers. You know, Lance will probably play front row for us and take just more of a tight role and a toughness up around the ruck with him being such a hard head. What he's done for us, I think, is brought a lot of professionalism to training. He's a good trainer and a very hard work ethic. So the fact that we've got a lot of kids at the club now and him there as a senior figure for them will certainly help us more off the field than I think on the field. And he's a great player. You know, him playing front row for us will be a good buy for us. I think he's got plenty to prove as well. You know, he's probably freshened up from being at Saints for so long and had the dramas of the off-season. I think he can't wait to start playing footy again.
If there was one thing the West Tigers premiership did last season, it showed South Sydney fans that it is possible. By then, the Rabbitohs had already won 6 of their final 8 games to close out the season. Laurie, can the Rabbitoh fans dare to dream?
I would if I was a Rabbitoh supporter. I think they unearthed some exciting young prospects towards the end of last season. I think they will be better with an off-season behind them. They know what to expect at the first grade level. They've bought some experienced players, and I think they've only got to look back over the last couple of years to some clubs that have had not so great times, and all of a sudden they've challenged for the premiership and won the premiership, including Penrith and the West Tigers.
Yeah, well, just on that, you look at Penrith in 2003, 100-1 at some point. I think after round 9 they were 100-1. After round 15 last year, West Tigers were 150-1 to win the premiership. They're certainly capable, provided they get the mix right, to South Sydney Rabbitohs.
You're 100% spot on, especially if these young guys keep developing to the way that we expect them to. And after the talent that they displayed last year, I think there's some exciting times around the corner for South Sydney. Obviously, they've still got to work hard in their game. They've lost a couple of experienced players in Fletcher and Ashley Harrison, who was a big blow. But they've got some of the best juniors, and I think given time, time over the next 2 or 3 seasons, we will see the best of South Sydney.
Yeah, well, I just hope that the Rabbitohs can finally take all their problems out of the boardroom and try and get some press for the right reasons. On top of that, I'd like some football around John Sutton. He is going to be a great player, but he needs to be handled right. He needs footballers inside and outside him, helping him both sides of the ball. I think he's the player that, 190 centimetres, 100 kilos, he could be anything.
Oh, look, I think he's going to be a special talent, John Sutton. I think he's on the verge of playing representative football. He did some special things last season, so he needs to continue. You touched on it. People inside and outside of John Sutton. If he plays 5'8", the question mark over South Sydney is their number 7, and that's been a problem area ever since they've been readmitted back into the competition. They need to get someone that's going to play regularly in that number 7 jersey.
Let's go now to the Rabbitohs and have a look at what's going on there.
We finished the year very well last year, and we blooded a lot of young players, and we won a lot of games, so they've got the confidence, the winning confidence, so this year there's a very good belief. Our aim is to make the top 8. I suppose we wouldn't be playing this game if it wasn't our aim. I think if we improve this a little bit on last year, we're only 4 points out of the top 8 last year, so if we improve this year, we will make the top 8, so that's probably a big goal of ours. Yeah, I think this will be a big year for John Sutton. This is his 3rd year in first grade, and he had a taste of representative honours last year. And I think the big thing is if he just stays injury-free, he should have a real big year.
Whether at the game or watching at home on Fox Sport, we all sit back in anticipation when the referee calls for the video ref. How would you like to be able to make that vital call? NRL Experience gives you the chance. Watch closely. Is this a try or no try? Make the right decision and you and a friend could be heading to Melbourne for the Harvey Norman State of Origin at Telstra Dome on July 5. To enter, head to NRL.com, click on NRL Experience and make your call.
Well, Manly has continued to buy astutely, signing Matt Orford and Stephen Bell to go with other major signings of recent years. I like the look of the Seagulls this year, Laurie. They've got Orford there. They needed a chief playmaker, somebody to come in, take charge. Exactly what they needed.
Well, history has shown over the years, hasn't it? To win a competition, you need a good number 7 and 6. And I think Manly, in particular, have got the number 7 down pack. I think Orford's a terrific player. He spent a couple of seasons down there at the Melbourne Storm. Really improved as a footballer. Big responsibility, though, coming up to the Manly club because they've pinned all their hopes on him leading the team around the paddock.
Well, this is something that you're familiar with and well qualified to answer. $1.8 million over 4 years. That's top dollar. 4, maybe 5 players in the game earn that type of money. For that sort of money, you're expected to not only help them win games, you're expected to make them win games. You're expected to win the games that are otherwise in the balance.
Yeah, like any investment, you're looking for a return, aren't you, on your money? And obviously the Manly club have decided that Orford was their man. History shows over the seasons that you need a good number 7 or 6 to win a competition. So they've bought one of the best in the business. But last year, I think Manly crept up on a lot of sides. There was no expectation. They've got to handle the expectation this season of buying some big-name recruits and then going out and performing.
Yeah, one thing I do like about the Seagulls, though, is their pack. If you go through it, you've got the likes of Kennedy, Watmow, Kite. It's a terrific pack. They're not quite as feared as those names suggest they should be.
No, look, I think they surprised a lot of people last year, in particular myself, because I didn't really think that Manly would make the top 8. I thought they'd run close to the bottom of the competition. But they made the top 8. They were destroyed in the last semi-final against Paramatta, but I think they would have learned a lot out of that game. The key, though, for Manly, we speak about halves in a lot of sides, but I think the key for Manly is Ben Kennedy. Ben Kennedy was terrific last year, and he's shown in Origin and in Test match football what a quality player he is. Once again, they need to keep him on the field. If they can keep him onto the field, lead the forward pack as well as he has done over the last couple of years, they're a show.
Well, one thing Ben Kennedy has done in recent years is just continued to make it on the field. There's not a tougher player around, is there?
No, and he plays with injury, and I think that's where a lot of the Manly players get the toughness from, and he's gone there with an attitude. He's won competitions, he's played at the top level, so all these young players coming through the system, they watch Kennedy train, they watch him play, they know that it's not all easy, they know that you've got to put in a lot of hard work. The combination I'm looking forward to seeing again next year is a combination of Kennedy and Stewart at the back of the field, because Stewart had a field yesterday running off the right arm offload of Ben Kennedy, scored some magic tries, and I'm sure he'll be looking to do the same again.
Yeah, and another positive for the Seagulls is they have lost Terry Hill, but they haven't lost too many other players. They've only lost perhaps really only one big name. Chad Randall's probably the only major first grader that's also gone from the club, so they're going to look pretty good in that respect.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need stability and just add a couple of class players, and that's what Manly have done. They've backed the players within their squad. They know that they made the semi-finals last year, and it's a stepping stone to go on to bigger and better things.
Well, let's see what the Seagulls think about this season.
I think Madoff will have a great impact on the Seagulls this year. You know, he's obviously a very creative player. He's got a good kicking game. He was one of the informed halfbacks last year, so I think you know, he's the man that can take us very far in the premiership. Well, I think there'll be more respect for the Seagulls this year. I think we played very good in the first half of the season. The second half wasn't as flash, but you know, I think we've done the hard yards last year, and we've strengthened up our side, and I think you know, it's going to be a big season for us. Ben Kennedy means to Manly, you know, he's an inspirational player. I think he's one of our leaders on the field. He leads from the front. The players get behind him, you know. I think he really lifts us at you know, in our time of need, and I think he's a great impact for us, and I think he'll be one of our best players this year.
Up until round 20, the Bulldogs looked a lock to make the playoffs last season, but then injury hit the Dogs and it all fell apart. Unfortunately for the club, though, they don't seem to recruit particularly well, and for mine, Laurie, that again leaves them vulnerable for when injury hits this season.
I think it's a big question mark over a lot of clubs this season, the amount of depth that they've got in their squad. You look at the Bulldogs on paper, they can come up with a good top 17. Underneath that, we don't know too much about their players. I think it's a result of the salary cap, though, of 2002, where they finally got found cheating, and all of a sudden, 2003, 2004, 2005, they've had to let players go.
Well, that actually happened to them last year, didn't it? Round 20, they looked all set, ready to go. Lost every game from then on in. It was all over after that because injury hit. They didn't have the players, whereas they have in the past. They didn't have the players this time to bring it up into first grade.
That's the key. Everyone has always spoken about the depth that the Bulldogs have had, and if they've had players out, they've been able to bring in people of similar ilk. They didn't have that last year. But you've got to remember too, they had one of the worst runs of injury that the Bulldog club have had through their history, and they had some of their best named players out. They had Hazem El Masri, Luke Patton, Sonny Bill Williams, of course, missed the majority of the football season. If he can come back into this football side, well, they're going to win plenty of games.
One player that did step up last year, had a tremendous season for the Bulldogs, particularly at the end there, was Braithen Astor. He's no longer there. Did the Dogs do the right thing? They had a decision, Willie Mason or Braithen Astor. They went for Willie Mason. I tend to think that come the end of the season, I'll be looking back thinking we probably needed a 5/8 more than we needed another front rower.
Well, it depends how young Daniel Holsworth goes from the St George Illawarra Football Club. He has been groomed under Trent Barrett over the last couple of seasons. He has learned his football. I think he's a good player. Whether he's in the Anasta class or not, we're about to find out. But Braithen Astor, I agree with you. At the end of last season, I thought he played some terrific football, really come of age in the state of origin. I like the way that he used his vision a lot more towards the end of last year, Braith, and especially if you're going to play in a 5/8 role, you need to have that. The Dogs, they'll rely a lot on Brent Sherwin. He didn't have a particular good season. There were some personal issues that he had to deal with and some injury problems. I think if he can get back to the form he showed in 2005, the Dogs will still be a strength.
Just quickly, will they challenge again?
If they can keep the majority of players on the football field for a long period of time, I think they'll be up there.
Well, that is the big issue. Can they keep their players on the field? Let's go now to the Bulldogs and see what they have to say about 2006.
Having Sonny Bill back, obviously it'll be a great thing for us, a bit of depth, and he's been a bit disappointed for him last few years. He hasn't played much footy, so to have him ready and raring to go will be a great thing for us. Losing Braithen Astor for this season was obviously a massive loss. He's been at the club for a long time. But we've got a couple of young guys, Daniel Holdsworth and Benny Roberts. They'll probably get a shot in the trials and see how they go. And they've been looking great at training and stuff, and hopefully one of those guys will fill that position. Very disappointing to miss out in the semis last year, especially the way we finished off. You know, the Bulldogs over the years have been a very successful club, and we let a lot of the ex-players and supporters down. So it's definitely been a motivation for us to try and play well and hopefully be involved in the semis this year, and hopefully we can go well.
Perhaps the biggest underachievers in 2005 were the Penrith Panthers. Plenty of people expected a lot out of them for the season, but no injury concerns that really hampered their season too much. Not a huge representative drain, yet they failed to aim up. Can they turn that around this year?
I think they can. You look through their team, and especially their top 15 players, they're very special, they're very strong. There's some good talent there, and they are capable of winning the competition if they have their fair share of luck. They've got good go forward with their forwards, they've got a good hooker. Their fullback, Reece Wesser, was off his game a touch last year, but if he can come back to somewhere near his best, they've got strike. The concern, though, I suppose, is the three-quarter line. They've got Denny Galea, more noted as a back row, I suppose, and Luke Lewis more noted as a winger. They're the number one centre pairing for the Panthers at this stage. They need to play to their ability, and if they can play to their ability, they'll hold their own. But if they're off a touch, Penrith could struggle.
How will the loss of Joe Nullavow and Ben Ross, two big forwards, affect the Penrith Panthers? They need go forward. They don't have a great structure to their attack, so they rely a lot on their go forward. Those two players out, it suddenly just takes a little bit away, doesn't it?
Well, it takes away from their depth, but you've got to remember that Tony Puletua didn't play a lot of football last year, so basically that's like a new recruit to their side. And Frank Pritchard is one of the most exciting young forwards in the game. He'll step up to the plate, I've got no doubt about that. I think he would have learned a lot going away on that tour with the Kiwis, the confidence that they would have derived out of winning the Tri-Nations final. And they've still got plenty of reasonable depth in their back row. Maybe up front, maybe a little bit of a problem because they've lost Ross, they've lost Garrett Crossman as well. But Penrith, again, if they can keep their top 13, 15 players on the field, they'll be competitive.
And they do have the knack too, the Penrith club, to bring players up that, they've always got terrific juniors, haven't they? So there's no doubt somebody lurking around the lower grades that's ready to step up.
Well, they've got one of the best junior leagues in the game, haven't they? They've got a lot of players that play, so obviously they're going to unearth a few players. But, Craig Gower, I think he's the key player. I think if they can get over the advantage line, which they have done in the past, Gower going at the line is always difficult to try and contain. He's a senior player. They'll look to him to lead the way, and he's a guy that just gives them variety in attack.
Well, no doubt the Penrith Panthers are hoping to improve on this season over last season. Let's go now and have a look at how they're approaching 2006.
Getting captaincy is a great honour for me and my family. It's a big challenge, but I'm looking forward to it. In saying that, we Craig maybe have lost his captaincy, but the positive thing that come out of this is that he'll still be out on the field with us. Last year was disappointing. We did some good things and some bad things, and the most important thing is that we learn from our mistakes and where we went wrong, and we capitalised on them during the off season. We've been training well, and everyone's excited and looking forward to the new season, and we just can't wait. Presto is a great player, and he's been a great player for us, and it's disappointing and it'll be sad to see him go. But these things happen in the league world, and I just wish all the best for him and his family, and we just hope to send him off on a good note.
Right, Money, we're off. We'll see you at the party.
Yeah, no worries, fellas.
Bye.
I'll see you there.
Clever, fellas. Very clever.
I like a bloke who's man enough to wear pink. Come meet my friends.
Sure. Cheers for the fashion tip, fellas.
Classic.
What I like about the Newcastle Knights this year is that last year's last placing, as disastrous as it may seem, may have been the perfect grounding for 2006. 35 players were used in first grade, 9 made their debut, many of them without Andrew Johns next to them. Coming into this season, it's the perfect grounding for a Knights resurgence.
Yes, but they need to have Andrew Johns on the football field. because he means so much to this football team. And we saw last year, at the start of the year he struggled, and some of these guys were playing. They didn't have the confidence, but at the end of the year they certainly did. But we all know what a great player he is and how much he means to this Newcastle side. If he is out the paddock anywhere near 100% fit, they will make the semi-finals. You look at the other key player for them, Denny Badiris. He's been a wonderful player for them. Hasn't got the raps, I suppose, that he deserves over the years, because he's the man that gives the ball to Johns when he wants it. John sees opportunities, and Badiris just gets into football. And I think that's a key combination for this night's team.
Well, they finished the season with 8 wins from the final 11 matches. On top of that, Newcastle, and this is what you've got to like about Newcastle, they're expecting a big season, and because they're expecting a big season, there's no shortcuts taken in their preparation. They are doing everything that is required to have a big season, and when you start playing football like that, that's all you need.
Tell you what, Kenny, I think I agree with you. Some teams are burdened by the expectation which they place upon themselves, but I think the Newcastle Knights are one team that thrive on it. I think they really enjoy it. You can just see that the way Andrew Johns plays his football and the other senior players when they're expected to win. They go out there confident, and they know that the opposition know that they're confident. And with Johns, the way that he played at the end of last season, I know he had a little bit of an injury concern and missed the Tri-Nations tour to Great Britain, but I think he'll come back better, fresher, and I think that's all augurs well for the Newcastle Knights.
They haven't done a lot in the recruiting field. I think Luke DeVico is the only significant name, but he's going to add to the team. Craig Smith did a terrific job for them last season, but Luke DeVico will do a similar job for the Knights this year, keep them sort of going in the same direction the whole time, so Andrew Johns is allowed to play his bit of football as well.
I think it gives them size in the forward pack. You've got Craig Smith, you've got guys like Kurt Reynoldsson, who missed a lot of football last year. I think he's a tremendous player. DeVico has missed football for 2 years, but he's keen, he's excited about his footy, and he is a good go-forward man. So and plus they've got Brian Carney, the Great Britain winger that's just come over. I think he'll add some flair to the football team. Another guy that I was particularly impressed with towards the latter stages of the year was Milton Thaiday. I thought he played some terrific football and will only be better this year.
Yeah, well, I know the Knights are saying that once they put a little bit of weight on Milton Thaiday, he could be anything, because he had it there last year, he had the tools, he just didn't have the size to back it up. They've spent the summer putting the weight on him. Big year for the Newcastle Knights. No doubt Andrew Johns is feeling the same way.
Yeah, being Michael Hagan's last year, we definitely like to send him out a winner. His first year in control of the side, we won the premiership that year, so it'd be fitting, being his last year, that we'd send him out a winner also. He's done a lot for the team and the club, and done a lot for a lot of the guys away from football too. He's a great coach, but a great man. When I was out injured last year, I think the younger players took a lot more responsibility on their shoulders, a lot more responsibility in their own positions. They've done their job the best they could. Instead of waiting around for maybe myself or Danny Badiris to help out with their job, they just took a lot of the responsibility on themselves, and it'll put us in good stead next year. We've got a few young players coming up, but probably the best young player is Jared Mullen, who's a 5'8" halfback. He's only still a boy. He's only 18, 19 years old, but very mature for his age, trains hard, looks a real player of the future. And in the forwards, a young back rower, Todd Lowry, who was injured last year, but once he overcome his injuries, he really fired towards the back end, and I can see him really developing this year.
Well, first up, it's Brisbane, and it has been a summer of upheaval at the Broncos, with coach Wayne Bennett sacking his entire coaching staff. Clearly, Laurie, Wayne Bennett is about turning around the Broncos' fortunes from previous years. They lost their last 7 matches last season. It's an ongoing thing at the Broncos. Yeah,
big expectations always placed upon the Brisbane Broncos, because you look at their roster and they've got some of the biggest names in the game. I think it's a combination of 2 reasons why they have struggled towards the back end of the season. I think it's the age of number of their players, and also the amount of games that their players have played. You look at their starting forward pack of this season. Webke, Sivanasiva, Tony Carroll, Brad Thorne in their 30s. I think the game has got faster. These guys have probably slowed down a touch. They've all been wonderful players. I think in their forward pack they are lacking something just a little bit different.
Yeah, well, one thing that they have done, the Broncos, is they've brought in Michael Ennis, a little bit of a live wire dummy half there. See the sort of player the Broncos need to spark up their attack?
I think Michael Ennis is a terrific young player, but can you teach an old dog new tricks? And what I mean by that is Webke, Sivanaseva and Thorne, they like to receive the ball off the deck from their dummy half, whereas Michael Ennis is a different type of player. Ennis picks the ball up from dummy half. He likes to engage markers. He also likes to get out to the B and C defender and place people into holes. The Broncos haven't had that in the past. I'm just interested to see whether Wayne Bennett will change his tactics for the new hooker or whether he'll get Ennis to change his game for the senior players.
I think you're actually right there the first time. I think that the Broncos are quite excited about having Ennis in the side. I think they like the fact that he can give them plenty of variety around that dummy half, and I think that they will look to change their game. We will see a different look Broncos this year.
Well, I think for the Broncos to be successful, they have to do that. Also, Ennis provides a kicking game out of dummy half, which they haven't had for a long time, the Brisbane Broncos. It can take a lot of pressure off Darren Lockyer, and the key for the Broncos is always Darren Lockyer. Last year, when he played in that 5/8 role, especially when he defended their 3-in on the right-hand side, a lot of people were making Lockyer do a lot of work. He looked a little bit tired towards the end of the year. I'd like to see Wayne Bennett mix him up in the defensive line, defend him on the wing, defend him at fullback, defend him 3-in, but just make it a little bit more difficult for attacking teams to get to him.
Well, it's an opinion a lot of people share, so let's see what the skipper himself, Darren Lockyer, has to say about that.
The Broncos, we were disappointed the way we finished last year, so I guess there is a bit of pressure on us, but I guess halfway through the season, that's when the questions will be asked, and we really need to try and finish the season off a lot better than we have in the last few years. We've got a couple of changes up at the Broncos there, and the guys that have come on board have done a really good job so far. Different approach to what we've had in the past, and I think everyone's enjoying the change, and hopefully we'll see some positive results on the field. Yeah, Michael has been a good buy for us. He's been training quite well in the pre-season, and he's jumping out of his skin to sort of. He's going to have a bit of competition with Barry Berrigan to get that number 9 jersey, but he kicks goals as well, which is something that the Broncos in the past have struggled with. So he's going to be a big asset to us.
Well, Laurie, for mine, the best news for Canberra this season is that Jason Smith is running around again. I think the one thing Canberra fans want to know is there somebody else that can step up, an alternate playmaker, and take the pressure off Smith that can hopefully drive the Raiders through to the playoffs?
Well, to have a successful year, they need someone to be able to take the pressure off Jason Smith. We saw last year when he played how much of an influence he was on his football team.
They were pretty much a one-man band, weren't they?
Well, they were, and he's similar, I suppose, to Darren Lockyer at the Brisbane Broncos. A lot revolves around how he plays, and if he's not there, the attack goes missing. They've recruited well in the off-season with some young, big forwards. Obviously, they'll be looking to get across the advantage line, create a platform for Jason Smith. But Withers and Todd Carney in particular really have to stand up. Carney's been groomed over the last couple of years to take over the mantle as the #1 playmaker. He's been learning off Jason Smith, but now it's his time.
Well, clearly Matthew Elliott last year did see a problem with depth. At one point they led the competition early in the year, but then once the injury started, the toll, the grind of a season took place, then the Raiders, they struggled. Lost 13 of their last 16, including their last 7. Not a good look.
It's not a good look, but I think they'll be better for it because they exposed some players to first grade probably before their time, and I think that will help them this year. As I said before, they've recruited quite well, especially in the forwards with some good young players. But again, the key player, Jason Smith. Look, Schifosky's been the rock down there at the back of the field for the Canberra Raiders. I'm expecting another big year from him. And also Simon Wolford. They missed him around the middle of the ruck last year. He missed their last 8 games through suspension. He gives them good attacking options, does take a bit of pressure off Jason Smith, and I think they're another team that needs their best possible squad together if they're going to make the playoffs.
And one thing too about the Raiders, they're always tough to beat down there, aren't they? And that's one thing, it's a tremendous home ground advantage for them, isn't it?
It certainly is, especially when the winter months come along because it's quite cold down there. All the opposition teams don't like travelling down there, and Canberra have made it a little bit of a fortress over the last 10 seasons, so that'd be something they'd be looking to continue on with, and they need to win their home games. If they win the majority of the home games, can pick up a few along the way, they'll be competitive.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive too. Don't think they'll make the playoffs, but we'll wait and see. Let's go to Clinton Schifosky now, the first official role for the new Raiders captain. What's he got to say?
Jason Smith, he's our linchpin. He's the man we go to, and he's been at the club for 12 months, and he definitely gives us a lot of direction. It's something we've lacked over the last 2 or 3 years, and he's a real important, part of our side having success in 2006. 2006 will be my first year as a captain. I think my biggest challenge, we've got a lot of young guys. A lot of critics think that's going to be our downfall, but I think that's probably going to be our biggest positive. We've got some really good kids, and my biggest challenge is, helping those kids fit into the program and knowing their job and getting the job done that needs to be done for us to have success in 2006. The major difference for the Raiders this year in 2006, I think everyone needs a bit of luck to win a competition. It's the toughest competition in the world, and we've had a tough run with injuries and suspension. Our captain from last year was suspended for 14 weeks, so I think we're due for a bit of luck. A bit of luck in running is what you need, and hopefully we'll get that this year.
Nothing compares to being on the field for a rugby league test match. Bundaberg Rum is offering you the chance to join me in my sideline lounge room, the Bundaberg Rum League Test between Australia and New Zealand at Suncorp Stadium on the 5th of May. We'll look after flights and accommodation, so all you need to do is go to bundabergrum.com.au for entry details. It's an experience money can't buy, all thanks to Bundy Rum.
Well, for the 4th year in a row, the North Queensland Cowboys improved their position in the NRL. And after reaching the grand final in 2005, there's only one step left, Laurie. Can we ask the question, is this year they win the premiership?
I don't know whether it's the year that they'll win it, but it's a year they're certainly capable of winning it. You look through the Cowboys side, they've got plenty of strike power out wide, which you need. They've got Jonathan Thurston, the current Dally M player of the year, who was very impressive last year, and they've got one of the best hard-working forward packs in the competition. The thing I like about the Cowboys team is they all know their roles and responsibilities within the team structure, and I think when you get to the big end of the season, your players need to know that, and they need to know what's required to take them to that next step. Carl Webb didn't play any semi-finals last year. I thought he was the X factor for the Cowboys. I thought he was a player that could have taken them on and won the competition. He wasn't there, so it's a big ask for him this year to come in and try and add some extra motivation for the Cowboys to try and get the comp.
Probably the biggest concern is, for the first time, the Cowboys now outweigh the Broncos when it comes to origin representation. 6 players last year, and there was a slight lull in form. They did drop off a little bit before they managed to regroup, get it together and get going through the finals. Obviously this year there'll be no, I suppose, scope for that again, will there? Or is that something
they're a confident football team and they know their capabilities, and the thing I like about the Cowboys, they play to their capabilities most weeks, and when they got that massive hiding in the first week of the semi-finals, there was no panic. I think they've got a good coach in charge in Graham Murray. He knows what it takes to get there, and I think their players know that on their day they are capable of beating anyone. They'll be a confident football team once again. They've got a tremendous trainer in Billy Johnson, so I'm sure he would have worked them extra harder to try and get that little bit extra out of them.
And when you've got a back three, Ty Williams, Matt Singh, Matt Bowen, 51 tries between them last season.
Well, it's such dangerous players. They're such dangerous players to defend against. And I think that's what makes the Cowboys dangerous. They can turn a negative situation into a positive straight away. You might have 60 kick chases in the game, but the minute you slack, they hurt you. They can score 100-metre tries more so than any other team in the competition, and that carries them a long way as well. I think they're an exciting football team. They're prepared to chance their arm, and whenever you've got a team that can chance their arm, got good go forward in the middle of the park, you always got to rate them a chance.
Well, let's see if the Cowboys are feeling the pressure. Let's go to them now.
I think the Cowboys as a team will get a lot of respect, from the last 2 seasons that we've had. We've showed a lot of footy fans and a lot of people out there that we can play good football. I think we have one of the best back three in the game for sure. We've got Matthew Bowen, Ty Williams, and Matt Singh. All played representative football and all quite capable of creating something out of nothing. So I think with those 3 blokes back there, it puts us in good stead. I think a lot of things can contribute to winning the premiership. It's only going to get tougher and tougher as the years go on. It's the most competitive I've ever seen rugby league in all my time of watching, and I think as a club, the Cowboys have definitely got the coaching staff and the playing roster to be able to win the competition. It's a long way down the track, and I suppose the top 8 will be our first goal, and anything can happen after that.
All right, let's look at the Melbourne Storm, a team who will have to overcome the loss of several crucial players this season. They've lost Robbie Kearns, the captain, Matt Orford, the halfback, and Steve Bell in the centres.
Yeah, I think they've recruited okay, but obviously the bigger question mark over the Melbourne Storm is going to be who's going to fill the 7 position. Matt Orford's left a huge hole down there. Cooper Cronk has had his moments over the last couple of seasons, and towards last year they were giving him some football in that role. James Orbison, a young guy who they'd signed from the Roosters, haven't seen a lot of him, but apparently got big raps on him. They'll be 2 guys that are fighting over that position, but it's such a crucial position in anyone's football team. They've got to get it right, and they've got to start the year successfully, the Melbourne Storm, if they're to be competitive at the end of the season.
One thing Cooper Cronk will have in his favour is outside him at 5'8", he's got Scott Hill, a test player. Inside him he's got Cameron Smith, an Origin player, and not far off being a test player himself. So he's got plenty of experience there. Each side of him, in the left and right ear, basically taking them where Melbourne need to go.
2 things with that. One, it is a good thing if there's not too many Chiefs out there, because you want to let the young kid just find his feet and just go with the flow of the game. Sometimes if you've got experienced players either side of you, they can be giving you too much information and all of a sudden they confuse you. So the advice to the Melbourne Storm players is maybe have one player give Cooper Cronk some advice, or no one. Just let him find his way, let him find his feel of the game, and it'll come a lot easier for him. I've just found with some young players when they get thrust into first grade, when they give too much information, it confuses them. Robbie
Kearns is a significant loss, but Michael Crocker, keep him on the field, he's going to be terrific. You've got Ben Cross, and you've got... Who else have they got?
Well, Garrett Crossman.
Garrett Crossman.
From Penrith, yeah. So they've recruited quite well. And don't forget they've also recruited Chris Walker. Chris Walker. What an enigma he is. I mean, he can score some wonderful tries, and other times he's had his moments where he's been pulled from the field early. So obviously Craig Bellamy feels as though he can get the best out of Chris Walker, and if he can, he's a match winner.
And you have him out wide with Billy Slater, with Inglis. Suddenly they've got plenty of strike there.
Well, they've got plenty of speed, haven't they? And that's something that the Melbourne Storm have really enjoyed over the last couple of years. But the man to take or make the most of their options has been Matt Orford. It's just going to be interesting to see whether Cronk or Orbison, whoever the number 7 may be, has got the same vision of the former halfback.
Well, for the past 2 seasons now, the Storm have faltered in the second week of the playoffs. No doubt they'll be looking to improve upon that this season. Let's go now to the Storm. Let's see how they view 2006.
The loss of Bell, Orford, Chan and Kearns, it's not going to be known for a while. I think we lost a lot of experience there, but we think we've filled the spaces there. We've tried to bring a few fellas up through the ranks, and also imported a few players from other clubs. So while we can't buy experience straight away, hopefully we can, counter that with a bit of youth. It'll be a big year for Greg Inglis in 2006. 2005 he proved that he can handle it in the first grade. Apparently, by all reports, in the Queensland Cup he was just he was too good for that league. So, without putting too much pressure on him, I think it's just going to be a big year because he realises that he can be good enough and he's just got the God-given talents. So, he's looking forward to a good year. We've got a good centre pairing. We've lost Steve Bell, as you just mentioned, but with Greg coming through and Matt King in the other centres, we're hopefully going to use them as some potent attacking forces. That's why we're all here, I suppose. Is the last 3 years we've only got to the second week, won the first week pretty well, and then lost the second week. So it is a bit of a thorn in our side, but we think we understand that what you've got to do to get through to that last week, and we're definitely smarting from last year getting beaten by the Cowboys. So we're really excited about the forthcoming year, and as I mentioned earlier, we've got a couple of young fellas coming through. We're just chomping at the bit, so we definitely believe we can go there. It's just a matter of doing it. I think there's another 15 teams out there that think they can do it as well.
Strangely enough, the biggest plus for the Warriors this season could have been what happened at the end of last season when they won the Tri-Nations tournament. Given the shot of national pride that provided the Kiwi players, you expect that they might finally get a little bit excited about the NRL this season?
I think it'll give them confidence knowing that they can compete at the highest level on the international stage, and I think that'll transfer over to the Warriors players in the NRL competition. I always think they believe that they're good enough, but when it really counted, I think they had some doubts in the back of their mind, but I think they'll be alleviated now. I think they know that they can be here. They've also got Ivan Cleary, a new coach that'll give them hardness, hard look about them, and I also think that Nathan Feen is a good replacement for Stacey Jones, because we always talk about the sevens in the competition. They're lucky that they bought Feen into the structure 12 months ago. He knows what's required, and I think he can fit in quite well.
They've lost some players too. They have lost Stacey Jones. They've lost Monty Bootham. Iafita Paliacina is gone. Carl Tomato's gone. So there is a bit of a blow to the. Francis Melly's another one. Bit of blow to the depth there.
Yeah, there is obviously, you know, the depth-wise they could struggle. But one thing we do know about the Kiwi players and the New Zealand Rugby League in particular, they can unearth some exciting prospects every season, and some blokes we haven't even heard of. So I'm expecting them to do the same. They've always got that big, strong look about them. And I think that they're really starting to improve and adapt to the NRL. And I think that's one reason why it helped them in the final against the Australians. They could hang in there for longer periods. Over the past, you've always said against the Warriors or the New Zealand side, if you can go with them the first 20 minutes of each half, in the back end, you'll get them. That's how it's usually turned out. But I think they'll derive a lot of confidence from the fact that they did win that Tri-Nations.
Yeah, an interesting thing too about the Warriors is that last year they were the only team in the NRL that did not suffer a loss of more than 20 points, which is not so much a testimony to their defence, but more their attack and their ability. It just shows that when they need to, they can score points, and when you do that in this NRL, anything can happen.
And the need to hang in. They will look back on the season 2005 and say, what if? Because there's a number of games there that they could have won, and they were right in the contest. But when it just got down to the nitty-gritty, it was a missed tackle or a poor opportunity with the football, a poor option that was taken, that let them down. Obviously, with a new coach coming in, he may change a few little things, but I think the Warriors are on the right track.
Yeah, well, obviously the Warriors will agree with that. Let's see what they have to say.
It's going to be interesting to see what impact, you know, the Kiwis winning the Tri-Nation is going to have on our team, and also, you know, rugby league in New Zealand. It's been great so far. You know, getting back to New Zealand after the Tri-Nations, it was a massive buzz around the country, and everyone's looking forward to the season starting. So hopefully the guys involved in it will get a big buzz out of that and continue the form they had, and the guys that weren't there will get a bit of enthusiasm and confidence from that as well. You know, having a new coach like Ivan is going to be great for the team. He's been in as a player at the Warriors. He's played with a few of the guys, but not all of the players. And also he's been there as assistant coach for 12 months, so he knows, you know, how the team was going last year. He knows where the team had come from, and he knows where he wants the team to go to. So, you know, there's a lot of things that he would have known that he would like to improve, and he's certainly done that so far. So I'm really excited. I know the players are, and he's a pretty calm, cool customer, and I think that's going to help the team. Yeah, replacing Stacey Jones is never going to be an easy task, but I think we're very lucky in having a guy like Nathan Feen, who obviously came from the Cowboys. You know, he was probably wanting to play halfback, but Stacey Jones kept him out of there last year, and now Nathan's going to get the opportunity. He was, you know, right in there for State of Origin halfback a few years ago, so he'll definitely want to get back there, and I'm sure that he'll direct the team around really well, and really look forward to that challenge of being the general in the team after Stacey leaving.
Whether at the game or watching at home on Fox Sport, we all sit back in anticipation when the referee calls for the video ref. How would you like to be able to make that vital call? NRL Experience gives you the chance. Watch closely. Is this a try or no try? Make the right decision, and you and a friend could be heading to Melbourne for the Harvey Norman State of Origin at Telstra Dome on July 5. To enter, head to NRL.com, click on NRL Experience and make your call.
Season 2005 will be remembered as the year of the crowds. Towards the end of the season, you couldn't buy a ticket. There were sell-out matches at Shark Park, Oakey Jubilee, Paramatta Stadium, Brookie Oval. And there's a simple explanation for those sell-out matches, Laurie. Great football, and in 2005 we saw plenty of it.
Well, it was great to see. The stadium's jam-packed, seeing some great football. I think some of the football we've seen this year was right up there with the best of all time. And I think a lot's got to do with the salary cap, because people are going to the games to support their sides, knowing that they're a realistic chance of winning. You're not going there hoping or thinking, oh, gee, I hope my side gets within 20 or 10 points of the opposition. They're going to the game. They know that they've got a good hope hope of winning, and it's just thriving at the moment, rugby league. I think the NRL are doing a terrific job, and the great moments in my mind that stand out is, of course, Benji Marshall's run at Shark Park against Cronulla this year, where he set up a try. It's just some amazing skill, the left foot step when he went through them on the halfway line, and of course the Cowboys winning at Brookvale Oval against the Manly side after Manly had scored with 3.5 minutes to go, seemingly wrapping up the game, and all of a sudden Ty Williams to score a hat-trick in the corner produced one of the special moments of the season.
Well, certainly they were all testimony to the tremendous skill of the modern-day player. Let's go now to some of the older generation, the legends of the game, to get their thoughts on what was a truly memorable 2005.
My favourite moment goes back to State of Origin Game 1 at Suncorp Stadium. I was sitting in the stand up there with 55,000 other vocal fans. The game was in the balance, and it was Luke Bailey up against Carl Webb, two of the real hard men of the game. They had one go at each other, they had two goes at each other. In the end, they had a third go, and it probably swung the balance towards Queensland, and from that point, Queensland looked to have a little bit of an edge. No good for us Blues supporters, but it was a great, exciting game.
My favourite moment so far this year, so many. Walking and seeing capacity crowds at all the home grounds. Fantastic. Seeing field goals being kicked in extra time, magnificent. Sides are coming last, beating sides in the top four. Fantastic. Love it.
My favourite moment for the year is probably the season on a whole. I don't think I've ever seen it as successful with the supporters, the teams and the competitiveness that's there.
Favourite moments, 2005, I guess would have to be probably the second State of Origin, the return of Andrew Johns to the New South Wales side. It certainly was a great game, and I guess also that the return of Andrew Johns to the Newcastle side, and unfortunately they beat Penrith. It would have been great for Newcastle fans to have their first victory of the season.
Well, my favourite try of the season is Ty Williams at Brookvale Oval. The Fortress, Manly like to think that they can't lose games there, but the Cowboys, they were struggling and they were down a little bit in this game, and the ball was taken in goal. A bit of a gamble. Matty Bowen passed to Ty Williams, and Ty Williams hit the accelerator and ended up, it was a match race between a few players. Looked like he was gone, looked like he was running out of steam, but somehow stumbled over the try line at the end, and the rest is history. It was a great 110-metre try.
The best try, I believe, this year was scored by the St George club, in particular Matt Cooper. It was in the Anzac Day game. For Matthew Head to make the decision to chip over the top, so around halfway when the game was in the balance, for him to be able to regather and pass it on to Matt Cooper, who still had a lot of work to do. He got over the line, the referee handed it to the video referee, so it added to the tension and the suspense. And then finally the try was awarded.
Best try of 2005, I'd rate Matty Bowen's. Such a crucial try, and to go one up in the Queensland State of Origin series was crucial for us. And also that particular game being, at one stage of the game we were 19-0 up, so that proved a very critical try.
My favourite try by far, without doubt, Benji Marshall's influence at Toyota Park. We're in all sorts of strife. Capacity crowd out there at Toyota Park. The Tigers needed to win this game. Benji Marshall off his left again, drove a great ball out wide without even looking, just knowing the fact that they were going to be there. Scored a try, did turn the game. It was an absolute bottler. We'll never forget it.
Over the last 9 weeks in the final two State of Origin games, obviously Andrew Johns, he came back from a knee injury, then had a busted jaw, but what he's done for Newcastle over the last 9 or 10 weeks has been amazing. And had they had the services of him throughout the season, I got no doubt they would be in the top 1, 2, 3 or 4 teams.
The most influential player would have to be Joey Johns.
Definitely Andrew Johns.
Andrew Johns.
It would be hard to go past Andrew Johns, but I think Trent Barrett has been very good for St George, and leading into the final series, he's been outstanding. And so I'll go for Trent Barrett just over Andrew Johns.
The most inspiring player for 2005 for me is Brett Hodgson. He's 75 kilos, dripping wet at the back, and puts his body on the line week in, week out, and defensively, he doesn't miss too many tackles.
Most influential player this season has been Ben Kennedy from the Manly Sea Eagles. His contribution to the club has been enormous, both on and off the field. Without him, they wouldn't have won as many games as they have. He's been competitive, he's been a great leader, and he's won some games on his own.
Everyone will say the Tigers, of course.
Without doubt, the most improved team, I've got to say, is the West Tigers.
Obviously would be the Tigers.
You'd have to go with the Tigers.
The West Tigers.
The West Tigers.
No doubt there's the West Tigers.
I think Paramatta and St George, in particular St George, I think they've turned the corner. They've certainly got the players, the talent to do it, and I just believe that just their attitude has really improved them as a rugby league side, and I really think that they'll be very hard to beat this year.
Well, it's pretty hard to believe that 25 years have passed since the first Origin, and this year we celebrated a fantastic relay, raised a lot of money for kids, and it was just a tremendous experience.
They picked the 25 Origin legends for each state. I think that's great, but mind you, I think anyone who's put on an Origin jersey is an Origin legend.
25 years of Origin, wow, that is something special, I've got to say. I can recall sitting in my lounge watching 1980, the first kick-off, the first fisticuffs, the first try. I can remember that. I can remember every second playing whilst I was playing football for State of Origin. I can remember it all and relive it still to today. And most importantly, it's just gotten better, stronger, more popular. This game is on fire.
It's all about the future, and every time these two states meet, they just keep producing something special. I think it'll continue to grow, and I think in 25 years' time the concept will be still going.
The most exciting new prospect, although he's not so new, is Sonny Bill Williams. I think he's got a lot to offer the game, and very exciting player.
Well, there's two of them, and they're both at clubs that I hold close to my heart. One, I think Leon Bott for the Broncos. I think he's going to be an absolute excitement machine. And of course, the other guy who I think will excite us for many years to come, as Leon will, is Greg Inglis, who plays for the Melbourne Storm. And he's certainly going to be someone that will entertain rugby league fans for many years to come.
Wes Nagama, from the winger from St George Illawarra, I think he's had an outstanding season. Plenty of pace, he's big and strong, and I think he's got a very good future.
Quite excited about young John Sutton, the 5'8" from the South Sydney Rabbitohs. In a struggling team, he's been one of the real standout players for them.
The most exciting new prospect in the game, Benji Marshall. Steps off both feet, has got tremendous acceleration, got a little kicking game, and he can even tackle in defence, so he's a complete package.
I think Gold Coast Rugby League would be excited about the prospect of coming into the competition in 2007. They've recruited some great players already. They've got a magnificent coach in Johnny Cartwright. I'm sure they'll hit the ground running hard.
If they can do it right, get the right personnel in there and win from the start, whether it be the first 2 or 3 games, I think that'll set themselves up.
When the Gold Coast come in 2007, you know the game's healthy. When the game's expanding, you know that more people want this product. They want it up there more in Queensland. They can't get enough of it.
The Gold Coast coming in 2007 is one of the best things that happened to the game for a long time. It's a real growth area up there. It's an area that's got a lot of juniors. They've attracted some big name players from other clubs already.
The 2005 NRL Rugby League for me, been a very special year. 25 years of rugby league in State of Origin football has just been phenomenal. How can you forget the crowds week in, week out? They've just been record-breaking. TV ratings, it's just been an all-time high. Can't beat the product, which is the most important facet here. The product of rugby league, every game, every minute that we've seen this year has just been quite phenomenal.
I just think there's been an exciting brand of rugby league being played. People want to see that. This year's been the most successful in history of the game, and I'd just like to see it keep going.
It's been a great year. Crowd attendance is up, of course. They come to watch games on the field, and the players and the coaching staff are providing wonderful games with the help of the salary cap having an effect, facilities being really good, and the administration at the NRL doing a wonderful job off the field. I think it's sensational, and they need to be congratulated.
Well, I remember 2005 as the year that the fans got off their butts and they filled the grandstands. So many clubs have broken ground records this year, and I think it's purely and simply a function of clubs being so competitive.
The salary cap obviously is working, and it's such a competitive competition. And some of the results throughout the year, I mean, there are sides that have been beaten that leading into the game you wouldn't expect them to get beaten by their opposition. You would expect them to win it quite comfortably, and actually the opposite has happened. You just can't go into a weekend now predicting who's going to win because you just don't know. I think that's a great thing about the season of 2005.
Take your league seriously? Get Fox Sports, the only place to see your NRL team play every week. You gotta love your league on Fox Sports. For every game every week, call your service provider now.
Well, for the first time in many years, the New Zealand Cougars will go into the Trans-Tasman Test as favourites over the Australians, kickstarting what should again be a massive representative season. Laurie, is it right to call the Kiwis legitimate favourites?
Well, congratulations to the Kiwis for winning the Tri-Nation Series. You know, their first series win against Australia in over 50 years. I thought they played some terrific football, but it's only one in 50 years. I think if they're to start favourites, they need to win and back it up again this season. But having said that, I think Australia will rebound strongly. I think that obviously they were put under pressure. They didn't handle it. They didn't perform at their peak and optimum level. So it's a good kick up the backside for the Australian players that they will come with a better attitude, and with a new coach, I think they could turn it around.
Wayne Bennett said, and he said it several times, the Kiwis will be the outright legitimate favourites for the 2008 World Cup. Ricky Stewart, the new Australian coach, has said exactly the same thing, that he believes that the Kiwis, on paper, will have the best team for the 2008 World Cup. Is this the changing of the guard here? Are we seeing now a turnover where New Zealand will begin to dominate, or was it just a one-off in England?
I don't think you'll see New Zealand dominate. I think obviously a lot of people are saying it's going to happen, but you can say that about a lot of things. It's going to happen, it's going to happen. I think Australia can still dominate for the next 15, 20 years. I think we've got so much talent here in the game, but it's just a matter of making sure mentally we're switched on when we play the Kiwis. I think over a period of time we've probably thought that when it got to the crunch, we'll be good enough to beat them. But all of a sudden the Kiwis showed a lot more grit than what they have done in the past, and they have got some exceptional players coming through their system. But I just feel here in Australia we have got players to match them. I think this Tri-Nation Series over the next couple of years are going to be sensational. Let's all just sit back and watch these players run around because they're the best at what they do.
And it's interesting too when you think about that New Zealand side, when two names here to add to the side, Sonny Bill Williams, Benji Marshall. Gets pretty good, doesn't it?
It certainly does, but I think the key for the Kiwi side last year was the direction that Stacey Jones provided for them. I can't see a halfback over the next couple of years coming through. Obviously they'll try and use maybe a Benji Marshall in the halfback role, but I'm not quite sure whether he'll be able to adapt to that 7 role. I think that Stacey Jones, while he wasn't at his dominating best, just provided direction and was a good mouthpiece for some of those Kiwi forwards. So that's something that they're going to overcome. But I've got no doubt that Benji Marshall and Sonny Bill Williams will play a big part in the revival of the New Zealand Rugby League.
There'll be 2 new coaches for State of Origin this year, with Mal Meninga heading Queensland and Graham Murray in charge of the New South Wales Blues. Laurie, most important thing first, are you still the assistant coach?
I'm still there, mate. Still looking forward to the role. Obviously, it's going to be another difficult time for New South Wales because Queensland haven't won a series now for a few years. There'll be extra motivation there, especially with Mal Meninga coming in. I think that he'll try and get the best out of his players. But New South Wales, it's going to be a difficult job. The thing I like about New South Wales, though, it always tosses up some exciting moments, and every series is completely different to the previous one, and I think that this year will be a pretty tight affair as well.
First game for a long time now, for some 8-10 years in Melbourne. How will that, particularly given the fact that the New South Wales lose a home game, how will that affect the New South Wales defence of the title?
I think it's great for the game that they're taking it down to Melbourne. I know that a lot of people disagree with that, but I think if we're going to grow our game, we need to get other people to watch it. And people down in Melbourne, especially with the ratings after the grand final, show that they are interested in it, but they just don't see enough of the high-level game. Obviously, the Melbourne Storm are trying to attract crowds down there, which has been a difficult time for them. But look, the first game is in Sydney, then we go to Brisbane. It could be 1-1, or New South Wales or Queensland could have won it. But I'm sure the people in Melbourne will turn up and watch it. But regardless of the result, and regardless of whether it's 1-1 or 2-0, State of Origin is always something special, and players go out there and give it their best. They would play it on the road, they'd play it in a phone box. They don't care where they play the game, just as long as they can get out there and represent their state with pride.
Queenslanders don't seem to play as well in Origin football unless Wayne Bennett has been the coach. That's generally when they're at their most dangerous. This year they've got Mal Meninga, an absolute, there's not a bigger name in Queensland Rugby League than Mal Meninga. Is he the man to try and bring back some football to Queensland and bring back the trophy to Queensland?
I think he will make a big difference to the Queensland side. He's a true legend of the Queensland Origin side, and he's been synonymous with State of Origin like Wally Lewis over the years. So I think he'll have the passion there for the job, and also the passion to get the best out of his players. And I think that Mal will have good support staff around him. He's already talking about having some of the ex-Origin players involved, as New South Wales have done in the past. I think it all augurs well for a pretty exciting State of Origin series.
Well, we're looking forward to that one. Brave enough to make any predictions?
Oh, look, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Kenny. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but I actually think New South Wales will win the 2006 State of Origin series.
The kick out wide. It's worked for them.
The NRL 2006 season. Every game, every highlight. The Daily Telegraph, every day.
The stage is set for all the drama and suspense we've come to expect from the NRL.
That's it from us for now. Thanks for joining us, and the best of luck for the season ahead.
And good luck to your team.